Hello everybody, I am Tofu, creator of Penguinronpa, and I asked you guys on Instagram and YouTube to give me some questions. I looked back at the last Q&A video that I did, and I answered 25 questions that time. So for this video, I'm thinking we double it. Let's do 50 questions this time. That is a lot of questions, so let's just get right into them. There's no time to waste. Let's just do it. When did you first start making this? What was some of your first ideas for the chapter and stuff? I started developing the series in October 2019, and I got enough of it done to post the prologue video that following December. If you're asking what my first idea was for Chapter 5, it was pretty much the characters who were going to die, and that was about it. I had absolutely no idea how or why it was going to happen. My original outline that I wrote was very bare bones, and it just kind of gradually expanded over time. How has your creative process evolved over the course of creating Penguinronpa? I basically just take it more seriously now. That's not to say I didn't take it seriously at first, but the prologue and Chapter 1 were definitely way more rushed compared to later chapters. The reason for that is pretty much just because I didn't actually know if anyone was gonna read Penguinronpa, so I didn't know if it was, worth it to put a ton of effort into it. Now, though, I know that for some reason there are hundreds of people that eagerly look forward to the next part of the story. So I would say I just put more effort into the series than I did at the start. How long does it take you to organize the story? Hard to really give an exact time here considering the series is a constant work in progress, so I guess it takes me 2 years and counting to organize the story. If you want a more precise answer though, it took me about 3 months to fully write the script for Chapter 5 Daily Life. How long does it take you to make a post? Well, first I have to write the script for the whole chapter, which, as I just said, can take a while. It can take me anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to figure out the script for just one Instagram post, usually depending on how important that dialogue for that post is. Then I have to edit the sprites, background, and text together, which can take about 2 minutes per slide. So a single post can take up to 30 to 40 minutes for me to make, and that's not even considering the possibility of me having to make new sprites or CGs or whatever. Are the penguins actually penguins? Yeah. Was the death order always the same, or were there some changes made along the way? The only change was in Chapter 3, but even that was very small. Rory was originally the second victim, and Cadence was going to be the killer. Otherwise, the death order remained the same ever since it was originally written almost 2 years ago now. Did you directly avoid making someone a killer due to how difficult an execution would be for them? Yes, Cadence. She would have had to have a dance contest-themed execution, since most of them are based on Club Penguin minigames. But in order to do that idea justice, I realized I would have had to animate several moving arrows, and I did not want to do that. There are of course other story factors that led to Rory being the killer instead, but me being lazy and not wanting to animate arrows was definitely a contributing factor. How much are you into Club Penguin lore? Very. I literally studied the Club Penguin wiki to make sure I wasn't doing anything that blatantly went against canon. Club Penguin wiki has been a remarkable source for anything I just didn't know or didn't remember about Club Penguin, so I highly suggest skimming through some pages if you're ever interested in the magnificent lore of Club Penguin. Even outside of researching for Penguinronpa though, Club Penguin history is just incredibly fascinating. Another place I highly recommend you check out is the Club Penguin Lore Twitter account. They analyze absolute every little detail you could possibly think of about Club Penguin, so I definitely recommend giving them a follow. Why didn't you make the penguins human like in the actual Danganronpa? They didn't really need to be. That's just, that's such an unnecessary change, and it especially gets confusing and weird to think about when you consider characters like Klutzy or the elite Puffles. That's just not a thought that ever crossed my mind, because it's not a thought that needed to cross my mind. It's called Penguinronpa. They live on Club Penguin. They're penguins. I'm also just not as good at drawing humans as I am with funny cartoon animal guys, so I don't think it would have been as good. Why did Klutzy kill himself? you did finish watching this video, right? Right? When do you think the finale would be for Penguinronpa? No idea. It really depends on when this hiatus ends, which probably won't be until early next year. I would hope that I can finish the story within a year of coming back, but honestly, it's still a possibility that Penguinronpa will go into 2023. And I don't really want you to use that as like a guide to predict how much story is left. I really just don't know how many more breaks I'm going to take, I have a life that I have things to do, so it's just possible that there will be long enough breaks that Penguinronpa keeps going for another year or so. What is your favorite case that we've seen? Easily Case 2. Overall, Chapter 4 is my favorite, but as far as individual cases go, Case 2 was and will always be the best in my opinion. Everything just came together so well, with the magnum opus being Pizza Dot. Not even joking, not only was that an incredibly funny scene and an incredibly funny fake-out body discovery, but it also ended up being a vital plot point to solving the case. I genuinely don't think anything I write for the rest of my life will ever be as genius as Pizza Dot. What is your favorite franchise outside of Danganronpa? I wouldn't even consider Danganronpa to be one of my favorite franchises. I like it, but I also don't. I'm a Danganronpa fan. I have to hate Danganronpa. Anyway, my favorite franchises are Club Penguin, of course, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario, Pokemon, and Gravity Falls. Why is Gary the only person without a canon ship? I mean, we have Dodgent, Jetkey, and Sam and Amy, so why is G getting the short end of the stick? First of all, the only canon ship is Jetkey. Dot and Agent is not canon, it's just very implied. Sam and Amy isn't canon either, and I don't even consider it to be implied. There's really no romantic implications between them, they just love each other very much, and that's that. And second, there are plenty of implied ships for Gary. Antarctic, for Rory, and now, even Herbert. Why did you make Jetkey canon? Because I like it? Will there be a Season 2? No! I get asked this all the time, and I answer it with the same thing every time, so I'm just gonna try to be as clear as I can. No, there will not be a sequel, and there are a few reasons for that. 1. Penguinronpa was always designed to be a single cohesive story with a definitive ending. It simply would not work, and it goes against my vision for the story. 2. There are only a handful of remaining Club Penguin characters left to choose from for a cast, and they're all not nearly as exciting or recognizable. 3. I don't want to work on Penguinronpa forever. I would like to move on to new things once it's finished. Did that answer that? I'm probably still gonna get asked this for the next Q&A, but oh well. Would you say that this whole story has changed your life? Like new habits, new friends? Absolutely, and I'm very grateful for it. I had been struggling with my mental health for a long time, and working on Penguinronpa and being in a community has helped me to manage it. It's also let me meet my best friends in the world, who I love very, very much. You know who you are. Were there any other characters that were gonna be added that didn't make the cast? Yes, the other 3 members of the Penguin Band, PDK, Stompin' Bob, and G. Billy, were originally going to be participants alongside Frankie. I cut them because they would have all died anyway, they would have been pretty similar to each other in terms of personality, and I just thought that would have been boring. I ended up replacing them with Shadow Guy and Gamma Gal. There's also Jeff the Ref, who wasn't actually considered at first, but once I remembered that he existed, I kinda was just like, oh yeah, Jeff exists. Yeah, he should have been in this. However, I'm very glad that I didn't include Jeff, because then he wouldn't have such a godlike presence in the fanbase. So because Jeff was not in Penguinronpa, he is much funnier of a character now. Why didn't you go for 16 characters in the Killing Game? Herbert P. Bear, the 16th participant lying hidden somewhere on this island. Please help him. Oh, yeah, it's a little too late for that. Anyway, yeah, Herbert is the 16th. I actually hinted to this during a previous Q&A, where after being asked for an out-of-context spoiler, I replied with a code that translated to, The number 16, watch out for airplanes, pomegranates cause brain damage, bye! This is a direct quote from a Q&A with the creator of Gravity Falls talking about the creation of Bill's cipher.
He would deliver some cryptic, annoying message. He would be like, the number 16, watch out for airplanes, pomegranates cause brain damage, bye! And then Jimmy would just like wake up and be like, oh, I just got a message! What does it mean? And it would mean like nothing. But then the number 16 would come up or whatever.
He says that Dipper would find this cryptic message that means absolutely nothing, but then, for example, the number 16 would actually come up. This is exactly what that hint meant. It meant nothing at the time, but then the number 16 actually does come up in the form of there being a 16th participant, Herbert. I've given a lot of cryptic hints like this where you can't possibly figure out their intended meaning at the time, so maybe one day after Penguinronpa ends, I can go through a bunch of hints and finally explain what the heck they all mean, cause there is just no way you can figure most of them out. Have the survivors ever changed? Like, has there ever been anyone who wasn't going to die initially? Nope, the survivors have never changed. Do you like Shadow Guy or Gamma Gal more? I like Shadow Guy more, which kind of contrasts with the other serious goofy duo, where I like Rookie more. I still love Amy a lot, but man, it's hard to not root for Sam after that badass monologue he had. Please give us one more drop of the Pokemon Club Penguin crossover. For context, I was asked what Pokemon the characters would have in a previous Q&A, to which I replied with this. Here is that full picture that I teased along with some other drawings and concepts. Basically, the gimmick is that Puffles are Pokemon. The island of Club Penguin would be expanded so that each major location is now a full town or city, and there would be actual routes between each area. Rookie is the first gym leader, and he uses goofy or cute normal types. Rory is the second gym leader, who uses rock, steel, or ground types. And Jeff the ref is the yo, champ in the making guy. And that's all I'm gonna say on it for now, in case I actually do this. I don't know why I feel the need to combine Club Penguin with every other franchise on the planet, but I guess that's just my destiny. So, we'll see. At this point, do you feel like some of the characters have become your own? Not really. Agent is of course my own character, and my interpretations of Shadow Guy and Gamma Gal have made me feel like they're my own too. But other than that, I try to keep everyone as close to canon as possible. The only other character I think I've truly changed the perception of is Klutzy, since in canon, he's just a comic relief mini-villain. But in Penguinronpa, he's an extremely important character who completely changes the story thanks to his sacrifice. How long did it take you to come up with ideas for the executions? Who was the hardest? It usually doesn't take too long to come up with a concept for an execution, since they're mostly based on minigames. Pages was probably the hardest due to the amount of Puffle-based games there were to choose from. I considered having a mix of Puffle Roundup and Puffle Rescue for her execution, but I ended up simplifying it to Roundup. I do prefer Rescue, but I think Roundup is the more classic and iconic Puffle game. Also, fun fact about Paige's execution, I came up with the final idea for it while I was in the shower. How do you plan out the trials so that everything fits together but is still hard to figure out? This is a great way to put this, and this is kind of like the golden rule of writing trials. Make things make sense, but also try to make them difficult to figure out. That said, I do prefer to focus on making things fit together rather than making them difficult to solve. If Penguinronpa was an actual game that you could play, maybe I would have tried to make the cases even harder, but since you're just reading it from the outside, you're not actually expected to solve the cases yourself. You can certainly try and succeed in doing so, but all you're expected to do as a reader is to sit back and watch the show. So I feel like making the case fit together and actually make sense is the more important of the two to focus on. Were there previous versions of Chapter 5's deaths? If so, what changed? Like I said, the death order never changed, but Chapter 5 definitely went through a few drafts. The murders themselves and the build-up to them really aren't as important as the consequences of them, so I always sort of left Chapter 5's daily life and case as a big question mark for a long time. It wasn't until around the time Chapter 4 was getting posted that I actually started to finalize ideas for the case. One change I can tell you about is the location of Herbert's body. Initially, he was found in the wilderness at the base of the ski hill, and the penguins would see him from the top of the hill but be unable to access him due to the force field. Then I moved him to the ski village in the exact same spot as Klutzy's body. If you remember why Klutzy's body was there, you can probably guess why Herbert's was there too. That part didn't change, but I did think finding a body in the same place 2 chapters in a row would be boring, so I just put him in HQ instead. What's your favorite Penguinronpa character? What is your least favorite Penguinronpa character? It's really hard to choose a least favorite because I really do like them all. I would say Monibird just because he's an asshole, but I really do think he's a good villain, so I can't hate him too much. Plus, that's kind of an obvious answer, so I'm gonna stick to the main cast. If you asked me this question before I started Penguinronpa, I probably would have said Frankie, just because I was never a big fan of the Penguin Band as a kid, but he's actually really grown on me after writing him. So now I'm probably just gonna have to say Rockhopper. And no, that's not just because he has 2 sprites or such a small amount of screen time. Believe me, I definitely would give him more of those in retrospect. I always liked Rockhopper, and I still do, but I never considered him to be a favorite of mine. Plus, I always found him to be a bit overrated as a Club Penguin mascot. Will the idea of Club Penguin Island be included in the story? There have been and will be a couple more references to CPI, but at the end of the day, they're just references. Club Penguin and Club Penguin Island are canonically separate universes, so anything that happens in CPI would have no bearing on the world of classic Club Penguin, which is where Penguinronpa takes place. Which Pokemon are the best? Okay, but seriously, here's my top 10. No, 15. 20. I love too many Pokemon. If you could change one thing about each chapter, what would you change? I love this question. Let's go. Prologue. I would have Agent explicitly state that they are non-binary. I thought having the characters only refer to them with they-them pronouns would have made it clear enough, but it definitely wasn't. That's not really the fault of readers, that's just the fault of society, and my fault for not making it clear enough. That is why, as the chapters have progressed, there have been many more explicit mentions that Agent is non-binary. Just to really run it home, because God, it's annoying when they get misgendered. Chapter 1. Sensei needs a better motive. I don't have any ideas for what that motive could be right now, but I just don't think he should have acted so impulsively. Especially after seeing a shadowy figure of all things. I mean, he works with ninjas all the time. What was I thinking? My change for Chapter 2 might upset a few people, but I really don't think that Paige needed to have that kind of despair. I still love her motive, and she still would have been in despair, but not like that far. It was pretty much entirely a fan service thing. Also, her being rude to Klutzy was really unnecessary. Chapter 3. I'd probably make Rory less obvious of a culprit. The breakfast plans the night before was a dead giveaway that something was happening with him. Dot was the only other suspect, and I think it was pretty obvious that it wasn't her, so I desperately needed another red herring. Granted, there was the drawer, but that's not really a red herring and is more of a long-term hint. Chapter 4. I'd pad out daily life a bit more. It would still only be 2 days long, but it could have used a few more events. The second day feels especially short and could have used some more Sam and Amy appearances. Monibird also barely appeared in daily life. He still wouldn't have had time to give another motive before Klutzy died, but he still should have shown up a lot more. Chapter 5 is still in progress, so it's hard for me to say what I'd do differently now. Maybe I'll come back to this once the chapter ends. Unless you can't talk about it yet, has any other source like IGN contacted you? No. And I doubt it would happen again. The IGN thing happened because a random journalist just happened to stumble upon my Instagram and thought it would make for a good article, and their boss just happened to approve of it. It was nothing but an incredible stroke of luck for me, and I really don't think anything like that's gonna happen again for Penguinronpa. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you while making the series? Getting interviewed by fucking IGN about it? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm proud of that, and it's like one of my greatest accomplishments. But still, you guys realize how stupid that is, right? A Club Penguin fanfiction was featured on one of the biggest gaming sites in the world. That is hilarious. By any chance, would you add voice acting to a different version of Penguinronpa? No. Voice acting requires voice actors, which I would want to pay, which I can't afford to do. I also have to get people's schedules to line up, and I have to rely on their time in order to post the stuff that I want to post. I get asked about voice acting a lot, and I think people just don't understand how hard that really is. Alternatively though, you can watch the fan-made Penguinronpa dubs. They just put out the prologue. If you were given the choice to add one building or location to Club Penguin, what would it be? Ooh, okay. So as far as existing rooms that just did not exist as regular rooms in the main game, I would definitely add the gadget room for, probably obvious reasons. But if I had to add a completely original location, I don't know, maybe like a mini golf place, probably because I just really like mini golf. And out of all the sports, golf was something that was never really in Club Penguin. Like, there wasn't even like a golf club hand item, which is weird because that makes like perfect sense to me. Like I can just visualize like the special dance animation of the penguin just swinging a golf club. So yeah, I think like a mini golf place with a golf mini game would be really cool, especially if it was like a multiplayer game, dude. Oh, that'd be awesome. I would probably put it on like the right side of the map behind the mine and to the right of the dojo because there's not really a whole lot going on there. Will Monobert come back? He's certainly trying to. He was in pretty bad shape though. Maybe he'll need a makeover. Why did you wait so long to give Sam and Amy character development? I'll level with you here and admit that Sam and Amy really lacked a solid personality until about Chapter 3. I knew what their long-term roles in the story would be, but that's kind of separate from their individual personalities. This goes back to what I was saying earlier with how I rushed the early chapters due to not really knowing if anyone was actually going to read the story. Giving Sam and Amy a solid personality back then just wasn't one of my priorities that I was focusing on. In chapters 1 and 2, Sam and Amy are just kind of generally nice characters who help out Agent whenever they're around. Chapter 4 is when their personalities are finally apparent and fully fleshed out, and Chapter 3 was kind of like a middle ground for that, to sort of bridge the gap between their old personalities and their more fleshed out ones. The problem, I think, is that a lot of earlier chapters were really short, and because I knew Sam and Amy would survive longer, I wanted to give the characters that were going to die more screen time before they kicked. I still think that Sam and Amy do more than people give them credit for. They find the blood in the snow in Chapter 1, we watch their plays in Chapter 2, an actual live play of theirs in Chapter 3. I just think it's important to keep in mind that not every character needs to be involved in a murder case, and that daily life matters just as much. Still, they definitely needed more screen time early on, and if I were to rewrite the series, I would definitely give them that, along with their fleshed out personalities from the start. Were there any major changes from the original draft to the main story? Not really. The only major change I can think of is Agent's character arc. It's still somewhat similar, but I did tweak it a lot over the course of development. I can't really elaborate on that yet, though. Which Puffles would mesh well with the dead penguins? Oh, this is a really interesting question. If one of the dead penguins that died early survived, like Rockhopper, how would they contribute to the story? I'll do you one better. Let's see what all of the dead characters would do if they survived. Antarctic would probably be the fucking protag, honestly. She's just such a good leader, which is why I had to kill her off first. Sensei, I really can't see him doing much. He's just too quiet and too nice. He'd probably act kind of like Gary and just be a mentor figure to a lot of the characters. I think if he wasn't a killer though, Sensei would be extremely smart in trials. I'd actually really love to see Sensei just completely owning a killer in a trial with like facts and logic while also staying completely cool and collected and quiet. Man, it's a shame Sensei was the first killer. That would have been awesome to see. Rockhopper would be a comic relief character. I just cannot imagine him being serious for more than 5 minutes before he starts yelling some pirate nonsense. But hey, at least he'd get more sprites. Paige would probably have an arc where she realizes Klutzy isn't her enemy, and she'd also, of course, be ecstatic when the elite Puffles arrive. Overall, I think she'd kind of be like a support character, but definitely not the cool and collected kind. If Frankie survived, I would probably have an arc about him becoming an EPF agent, sort of what Sam and Amy are going through right now. That would be a nod to a scrap plotline in Canon Club Penguin where he was going to be an EPF agent. Come on, that's totally Frankie. Cadence deserves to survive the most in my opinion. I think she would just become like this really emotionally strong character. She's not the smartest, so I don't see her as like a full-on support, but I don't think she'd be entirely comic relief either. I think Cadence would be a really interesting survivor. Rory is such an unfortunately unimportant Club Penguin character that I don't really know what he'd do if he survived. He would probably just be like that one character that you're like, okay, but they're definitely gonna die next chapter, and then he just never does. Klutzy, I have no idea. I would have to rework the story entirely because his death is such a crucial plot point. He'd probably still be a strong, silent, but adorable hero. Herbert would be a reluctant hero, constantly being annoyed with everyone, but he'd still be trying his best to cooperate. Herbert being a different character than Monobert was too big of a secret for me to do this, but I think having him be a main participant from the start would have been really interesting, and would have given Penguinronpa an actual antagonist within the cast. Gary already made it pretty far, so his role would be the same. How do Jetpack Guy and Rookie feel about each other? They are deeply in love, but sometimes love hurts. JPG can't understand how Rookie can be so silly instead of being serious, and Rookie is kind of vice versa. It's been very hard for them to talk things out due to everyone constantly dying around them, but they'll kinda be forced to talk about it pretty soon. If the newer Puffles were elite Puffles, what abilities would they have? I don't know if you're asking what their abilities would be in like Penguinronpa exclusively, or like for a new EPF game. The thought of a new EPF game excites me more, so that's gonna be my mindset while answering this. But there actually have been some newer Elite Puffles outside of the DS games. Gulp is the orange Elite Puffle who only appeared in one magazine comic. He would probably do something with box portals, or since his name's Gulp, I don't know, just eat like anything in his path. Lucky is the golden Elite Puffle, who also just appeared in one comic. He would probably use like a mini jackhammer to break boulders or dig holes to find clues. And if this is an EPF game we're talking about, then you would also have a chance to get coins whenever you use Lucky's ability. As for the other Puffles, a brown Elite Puffle would be awesome. I have no idea what their ability would be. Like, it could pretty much be anything since they specialize in gadgets. But I would say their name should be Gizmo. A rainbow Elite Puffle could, I don't know, make rainbow bridges to cross gaps. I don't know, I'm imagining like a Club Penguin platformer. That would also be awesome. Please, Disney, do that. But their name would be Chroma. I just realized that makes them the third Elite Puffle that has a name that starts with CH. So I guess that makes the name even more perfect. A Ghost Elite Puffle would be great too. If you've played Paper Mario, you can probably already guess what my idea for their ability is. Like Lady Bo or Vivian, they would pull you into the shadows so you can stealthily snoop for clues. That would actually be a really cool Puffle companion for Dot. Anyway, their name would be Lurk. I forgot to say this before I moved on to the next question, but I don't really care about the rest of the newer Puffles. They can die, so I didn't do those ones because they suck and I hate them. Especially you. Fuck you. Why 2 double deaths? Herbert knew too much, and after Gary spent some time with him, he also knew too much. Who is the mastermind of this killing game? Why do you guys still ask this? You think I'm just gonna tell you? Can we get a hint of who the mastermind is? Now see, this is how you ask that question. Alright, your hint is... It's Pikachu! Would you do another one of these Penguinronpas, and if so, who would be in it? I have ideas. I'll hold off on saying them for now in case they actually happen, but I do have ideas. If someone makes a Penguinronpa 2, what would be your thoughts on it? I don't really want anyone to make a sequel. For one, as I said, a sequel just goes against my vision of Penguinronpa. And 2, I don't own Club Penguin or Danganronpa, so I would much prefer to see someone do their own different and original take on what a Club Penguin cross Danganronpa story could be like. What I do own is the story of Penguinronpa. So my problem would be if someone uses my concepts without permission. I should clarify that I don't have a problem with fanfiction, which is weird because Penguinronpa itself is a fanfiction, so you are writing a fanfiction of a fanfiction, which is really weird, but it's still fine. I just don't want people trying to claim that their work is associated with mine when it's not. Have you ever considered writing or drawing your own original creative projects? Oh, definitely. There's just not much I want to show right now. Plus, my brain is constantly occupied by fan work ideas, so pretty much until every franchise I like does exactly what I want them to do with that franchise, I'm mainly gonna stick to fan content. But hopefully one day I'll have something original ready to fully show off. Do you have any plans for these characters after Penguinronpa ends? I don't know if I'm ready to say goodbye. Of course! Penguinronpa certainly won't be my last Club Penguin project. The franchise means too much to me to just stop making fan content for it, especially if Disney isn't going to do anything with it. And there are plenty of other talented Club Penguin fans keeping the characters alive in their own ways too. So if you love these characters and their world as much as I do, join the Club Penguin fandom. We could really use some better people. But if you absolutely only want to see the Penguinronpa incarnations of the cast, don't worry, there will be some Penguinronpa bonus content after the series ends. What will you do with your YouTube channel and Instagram when Penguinronpa is over? The Instagram page won't go anywhere, that'll still be up for you to reread whenever you want. My YouTube channel isn't going anywhere either, and I'll still be uploading stuff here. This isn't specifically the Penguinronpa channel or whatever. This is my YouTube channel, and I uploaded whatever content I felt like uploading before Penguinronpa started, and I'm gonna keep doing that after Penguinronpa ends too. Speaking of, expect some more non-Penguinronpa videos soon. I've been having a lot of fun making them while I'm on hiatus, so I hope you guys keep enjoying that stuff even if it's not Penguinronpa related. Alright, that was 50 questions, so that's gonna do it for this Q&A. Maybe I'll do another one of these in another year and a half or so. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and like I said, there will be some more videos coming out within the next couple weeks, and probably months. Who knows how long this hiatus will last. I'm just taking a very much needed break, and I'm also very busy in my real life right now, so I just need some time to step away from working on Penguinronpa. If you are only subscribed to me for Penguinronpa, that's fine. You don't have to watch these videos. I don't expect them to perform as well as the Penguinronpa videos do, but I don't really care. I just like making content, so I'm gonna keep doing it until I get back to work on Penguinronpa, because that takes up the majority of my time, so I probably won't have time to do it then, but we'll see. So yeah, that's it for this video. Waddle on!